Good evening. It is 5:15 this Monday, June 12th, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, before us, roll call, just JJ absent, but the rest are all present. We have tonight's agenda, but before we get to that, we have an introduction of a new employee, and that is a aquatics fitness specialist, and I will turn that over to you, Chad.
Yeah, absolutely. Tonight we have Grant Krause. He started with us a couple weeks ago now. He's a 2019 graduate from Kemper and a 2022 graduate from Iowa State. Just looking to get into the Parks and Rec field, and so far so good.
Welcome aboard, Grant. Yeah, thanks for being here. You could just stand and show everybody who you are. There you go. That's what I was looking for. So, yeah, and still growing, I'm afraid. So,
Probably.
don't take up the whole pool, is what we're saying. So, Grant, welcome aboard. Glad to have you, and you're going to be well utilized. I promise you that. Thank you again. Yeah. Bye, Grant. Thank you. Okay, we have tonight's consent agenda. It includes approval of minutes of the May 22nd meeting. We have approval of this cycle's bills and claims. We have a few licenses and permits. I'll read as follows: a renewal of a Special Class C retail alcohol license for Pizza Hut, an outdoor service for just July 24th, which is for Ragbri and the Carroll Brewing Company. And then we also have some cigarette permits, and then also included is acceptance of a couple of tobacco settlements. Is there any questions, or is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Second.
Tom and then Kyle, approve tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Cordero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Sturts?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Perfect, thank you. Item number 5, as always, is oral requests and communications from the audience. Several people here today. This is for items people in the public can approach the council to address anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Are there any? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item number 6 under ordinances. And Laura, I'll turn this first one over to you. Item 6A, ordinance for the 8th amended and restated urban renewal plan by adding a 10th amendment project area and 14th amendment project area to the division of revenue. Laura.
Yes, thank you, Mark. About a year and a half ago, council approved the 7th amended and restated urban renewal plan that added a number of areas, the 9th through the 13th amended project areas. Then most recently at last council meeting, council approved and amended the plan again for the 8th amended and restated plan, which added a 14th amended project area. So on our map, I'll just point out, then what this does tonight, this ordinance actually adds 2 areas, the 10th as well as the 14th, which on your map is the green and then the light blue area just above the yellow area there, so that we are able to collect TIF or tax increment finance revenues from those areas. If you recall, in the 10th area, we have a development agreement that we entered into with Brian and Holly Wendell and Jason and Karen Atherton for rehabilitating the old villa property that's located at 220 West 7th. And then more recently, we just added some property area so that we're able to extend and offer eventually the urban revitalization incentives for some property in that area. So tonight is to approve this ordinance so that we can start collecting those TIF. You can do 1 reading if you would like, or you could do all 3 readings if you would like.
Any questions to Laura about this issue? Seems like lately we've been waiving a lot of second and third readings. This is not under any specific time constraint.
No, it's not.
So,
Other than just needing to have it done so that we can certify debt or have it in place before the end of this calendar year. So we've got time if we want to
okay,
take it to the next meeting as well.
okay. What's the council's feelings as far as, well, number one, the approval, and then number two, as far as waiving any second or third reading? What's your thoughts?
We've been talking about this for quite a while.
It's gonna get probably approved anyway, so
Yeah.
why don't we just waive the second and third and move
It's a
on.
good plan. I think you
Okay.
could waive them.
Someone want to make a motion to that effect then?
I will.
I'll
Carolyn?
second.
Seconded by Tom. And it was going to approve the first reading and then waive the second and third. Is that correct? Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Now, we would need to adopt that then, correct?
Yes.
So I need a motion to adopt that said ordinance.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Okay, Carolyn and then Tom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Bornero?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Great, thank you. Okay, no more other ordinances. Under item number 7, we have resolutions tonight, and the first one would be a fiscal year '24 liability, property, and worker comp insurance renewal. And I'll briefly turn it over to you again, Laura.
Yes, thank you, Mark. So this is the time of year where we look and renew our property liability and worker comp insurance. We've been working with Mid-Iowa for a number of months now to get all the information to our current carrier, which is ICAP for the property and liability, and then we work with IMWCA for the worker comp insurance. The total cost is just under $470,500, which is an increase from last year of just over $64,000. There are a number of reasons why this has gone up from last year. Outlined in our memo. In particular, from the liability portion, if you look at there was a premium comparison, so the liability went up, and the reason we were given is just ICAP increased everybody's in liability across the board, roughly a 15%, probably somewhere between 12 and 15% for everybody. Property typically goes up every year. ICAP automatically increases our property values across the board. In years past, it's been somewhere between 2 to 4% increase on our values of our property. This year, they did across the board 10%. And then the city could go in or looks at all the properties and decides, do we believe that's true or not, or do we think it's too high or too low? So that's one of the reasons, or the why the property went up so much. And then our worker comp did go up as well. Our mod, one of the factors when you're figuring out your worker comp insurance is the mod factor, and our mod did increase a little bit more this year from a 0.97 to a 0.99, where if you have a 1 mod, you're considered average. So we're working on that to try to bring that back down, because in years past, we've had quite a bit lower mod. We do have a liability from the total amount at $7 million. So the information you have here, the comparison does include the renewal at a $7 million. We did work with Mid-Iowa to seek another quote from another insurance company. Basically, we were told the EMC insurance company is the only other company that really writes insurance coverage for municipalities, and they declined to give us a quote this year. The premiums are slightly higher than what we have in the budget, but it's actually pretty close. So we can evaluate when we're putting together a fiscal '25 budget if we would have the general fund reserves pay for that, or if we would look and ask for additional tax collections to cover that shortfall. As in the past, the premiums are due July 1. Well, this case it'd be July 3rd because July 1 falls on a Saturday this year. But we would be asking council for approval tonight that we would write that check right after on the first business day in our next fiscal year of July 3rd. We do have Mid-Iowa Insurance agents Terry Axman and Josh Axman here if you have additional questions about our insurance renewal.
I don't know, she did a pretty good job, guys. You got anything you can add to that?
I'm gonna hire her.
No, thanks. No. She's not available.
My head spins when I ask those questions.
I do have a question. Why did EMC not give us a quote? What was the reason?
There's some open claims outstanding right now, and they don't wanna get involved. They thought it was in your best interest to not shop it at this point in time with these open claims going on.
Okay.
just a quick question, is, just because you included it in the language in the memo and then you explained it too, that this is a fiscal '24 budgeted item,
Yes.
and we're going to write the check
Yep.
in fiscal year, well, after July 1st.
Yep.
Is that not typical of what we do anyway, or is that traditionally what we do anyways?
That's typical what we do here.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
is write the check in fiscal '24.
for the whole year and just have it done, okay.
Terry, on any outlook on, will this high increases keep going on, or?
Well, I have no crystal ball, obviously, but what I would say is, in the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen the commercial and property markets go up as fast as I've ever seen it. It's deteriorated for a lot of reasons. Those of you who have homeowners and any type of property insurance in your businesses, I'm sure you've seen them go up. It's really a threefold thing that's hit. Liability is hit with what we call nuclear verdicts. These liability claims have gone up substantially. The property claims, started back with the derecho, which none of us have ever heard of. And in Iowa, it's been ongoing. We had a second derecho. Obviously, we just had a hailstorm. We've probably had 6 companies since this last hailstorm put a moratorium on writing certain property. A lot of homeowner carriers are pulling out of the market until they can ascertain what's going on with the market. So I don't think it will be a hit with as much as next year as it was this year, partially because what happened is the reason we had a 10% increase on the value of our properties is, with COVID, a lot of the valuations of properties increased very quickly. The price of a 2x4 doubled. So they're trying to keep pace with that, which again, it's the perfect storm. There's, just compounding all these things. And so I don't think all these things will be continued. The supply chain is easing a little bit. I think costs are coming down a little bit. And then the last thing is what's called reinsurance. It's a kind of a complicated thing, but all these carriers purchase insurance to protect themselves. They only hold a certain percentage, like maybe $500,000 of a loss, and then they sell it off to these reinsurers. Those reinsurers are very, very few and far between, and they write Midwest exposures, they write East Coast, West Coast, everywhere. So you're thrown in with global. There's just not many of them, and so like I said, that has dissipated. There's a book of business that was $1 million of property is now like 1,300,000. So their capacity is shrinking because the same exposure is now bigger. And again, it just adds to the problem. There's not as much capacity out there, and people are just becoming, they're trying to finance for it. Iowa used to be a fairly easy state to write property in, but now we've overtaken like Kansas, which was always a hotbed, in Oklahoma for hail. We're right with them now, and that hasn't happened in my lifetime. And so I don't know. I'm not buying into all the weather-related changes that are out there, but something has happened to our market that Iowa has really suffered greatly in these property casualty events. So I'm hopeful that next year we'll not see an increase of yours was probably just under 20% or around 20%. I'm hopeful that it won't be that way. But I would guess that most property and liability things will be, if we can hold them under 10% next year, I would be, that would be my hope. But again, it's too early in the game to figure that out right now. It'll have to wait and let the market play itself out.
I mean, you're going to add something, but I was
Yeah,
just,
it's just a little concerning. 10% on a large dollar, it's a lot of money compared
Well,
to
and-
3 years. You're $100 and some thousand difference?
Yeah, the problem that we have, and it relates to the capacity in marketing, there's really only 2 markets for this. There's ICAP, IMWCA, and there's EMC. There was a third player, Continental Western, had a program through an agency, and as of January 1, they had about 400 fire departments. They had about 100 smaller communities in one county. They got out. They said, they're done. We've lost too much. We're done. ICAP and IMWCA were created in the late 80s, or excuse me, the late 70s, early 80s, because of this very thing. The market was horrible. There was 2 companies, Iowa National, I forget the other one, went bancrupt. There was another carrier, Pencor, and a few others. exited the market. So it became very, very problematic. Communities were trying to get hit with 50% increases, 100% increases, if they could even get a renewal at all. So that's why ICAP and IMWCA were created back in that. Now that was before my time, but that's what when they started, and that's what was going on. Keep in mind, ICAP and IMWCA are memberships, so it's not like you're buying from, a stock company. You have representation with those companies. You have councilmen and people that are on that board that are city clerks and so forth. So they're looking out for your interest, and there's no profit motive for those people. When there was a profit, they gave it back in distributions. There's not been profits, for the last few years, so that's kind of gone away. But hopefully that market will not dry up. Those two still seem to be fairly sound. But, I don't know that it does not appear that there's gonna be another market out there, a player that's coming in, which is never good. Obviously, the more competition, the better it keeps your rates down. But right now, there's nobody that's stepping forward. Maybe they will, but again, I would not say that that's a high likelihood at this point in time with the market being where it's at.
I seem to recall that several years when I was with the county that it was shortly before and then immediately after Obamacare, we went through this with health insurance, where we were seeing, almost catastrophic. I think you probably did here at the city too. I imagine I didn't pay enough attention to your rates at that time too, but it seems as though that has worked its way through. So I'm hopeful that this may work its way through as well. Got to
I'm
get to the
hopeful.
bad before you get to the good.
I'm hopeful, but like I said, it was kind of the perfect storm on a lot of these things leading up to it. Most of those factors, I think, have kind of subsided, so I'm hopeful. But again, time will tell, and weather-related situations, and there's been a lot of things happened in Iowa. Medical, they passed some laws for capping some of these verdicts, both in the medical mal and in trucking. Some of the things that would help them is like police, if they get caps on what would happen with some of those things. But again, I don't see anything on the horizon yet for those. But again, all those things could play a factor, and right now there's just no way of knowing. I will certainly when I hear something, you guys will be the first ones to know if I think it's going to be the same, lower, higher, wherever. I mean, it's doesn't make us feel good, because not only do we deliver these to you, we're delivering to every one of your individual businesses, and it's not good. But hopefully, a year from now, we'll be in a better position. That's the hope.
Anything else for Terry? Or Josh? How about Josh? Maybe we should grill him after, suppose.
He's my backup. I thought it could get rough tonight.
I'm picking on people in the crowd tonight, so that's why our crowd's so thin. But anyways, and unless anybody has any other questions,
I was gonna add one more thing.
you're gonna volunteer something. Good for you, Josh.
We talked about the why EMC wouldn't offer a quote, so, for like open liability claims, so once the cover, let's say we switch to EMC July 1st, coverage ends with ICAP, so there would be no other, ability to recover money, which is okay in like a property sense, so you know what a claim would be, let's say $10,000 for property. You know what you're looking at when you're property, but these two liability claims, with court costs and things like that, it could be huge, and so there would be really no coverage for that, because EMC wouldn't pick it up, you know what I mean, so it's, it just wasn't a good time, so.
Terry, are those claims from 2023, 2022? Are they hanging out there a ways?
One of them was relatively recent, and if you'd like, I can go into those with you individually at some
Yeah.
point in time, to try it, because it'll take me a little bit to figure out which
Sure.
ones all were. I mean, there's a number of claims, and some of them close and some of them go on, and we don't
Okay.
really know where they're at with all of those at this point in time. But I'll be happy
Okay, that's fine.
to look into it for you. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
So we're back to a recommendation, and Laura, per memo, is seeking approval of the contract for property liability work comp insurance, and the resolution to approve those. Is there a motion to that?
So moved.
Misty,
Second.
seconded by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Dirk.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. All right, Laura, you're off the hook for a while. Now we're going to pick on Randy. Randy, I think you're the next item here. We got Adams Street reconstruction.
Thank you, Mayor. On June 6th, bids were, for the Adams Street reconstruction project were received, opened, and tabulated. 3 bids were received. Rash Construction of Fort Dodge submitted the lowest bid at $3,550,680.08. With that number, adding in the other project costs, we're at a total project estimate at this point of about $3,890,000. During your last meeting, you had reviewed the funding stream for this project and pretty much set that available funding at about $4,071,000. So we're under the funding at this point. Of course, there is over $1 million of underground in this project, and the chances of running into something unknown underground are reasonably good. But with that in mind, at this point, we would request your consideration of awarding the contract to Rash Construction at their bid price. Then the next memorandum that follows this is the approval of the contract and bond, which is a formality procedure that's required. We have received signed contracts and bond by email and have those in possession. So we would also recommend your consideration of approving that contract and bond.
Randy, what are they looking at for contingencies on this dollar-wise percent?
Well, we, in civil projects, what we do with contingency is during the design work and up to the final estimate, we would include a contingency, and they vary somewhat depending on the type of work, how complicated it is, how it can be defined. Now, once we get past that point to bids, we do not have a contingency in this project. Now, the funding that you had approved exceeds what we're estimating the expenditure to be by $180,000. So if that, could be considered the contingency, actually, it's just a result of a bid that was a little bit better than we had originally anticipated.
But if this would have went the other way to where the bid was higher, we'd be short on cash, still resulting same way, no
Right.
contingency.
Right.
Okay.
Kyle, are you kind of asking,
I just want to make sure there's nothing.
kind of like the rec center
we
has
get
contingency
3
built
months down
into
the
it?
road
This
where
does not.
There's a $40,000 contingency. A couple weeks later, there's something else too. I just want to make sure there's not going to be some of that stuff that we're going to see with that.
No.
So,
No, from this point on, you know what you budgeted, and you know what we're estimating for pricing. Anything to change that would be a change order. If we encountered those unknown underground conditions, likely that may happen.
Do you have anything as an example, or do you even care to speculate?
What could happen?
What might be, I mean, again, we're talking,
Well,
100-year-old street,
sure.
and
Yeah, and sewer and water, the
Right.
same. And those are the items that, typically when you go underground, we think we know what's there, but we don't know until we see it. So you do the best you can to anticipate those things on the reconstruction. We can still run into anything, that's underground, and we just have to deal with it.
would it be, say, like a unforeseen soil condition?
That can happen. We have done soil exploration and tried to minimize that, but it's always possible. You know, the soils people will tell us they're representative of only the hole they drilled, you know, so anything next to it could be different.
A good example of something that could cost more that we didn't know about, say there was brick pavement underneath the concrete and the asphalt. If they start tearing out the concrete and the asphalt, now they find a whole layer of brick paving that nobody knew about, that would cost more to get out of there, which would increase the cost for the street. So that would be, I guess, one of the examples I've seen that increase that cost.
Okay. Cody, do you have any thoughts that you could prepare the council for either? I'm going to pick on you, sorry, but.
No, that's fine. You know, sometimes when they build this infrastructure originally, you might have a pipe coupler or something underground that didn't quite fit the way they wanted. So they might pour a concrete collar around that fitting. And so removal or installation around those types of couplers can add some cost. Minor underruns, overruns in quantities is always a possibility as you get into field conditions. Might need a little more pipe to make a connection than we had thought in the design process, which can add to a little bit of an overrun in the backside of it. But generally, as Randy has alluded, it's when you get underground, you start digging, you find things that you didn't expect. And so just handling those items, whether it be a removal, accommodating, whatever it may be, are generally overruns on your contract. You know, as Randy alluded, we've done a lot of televising, exploration type activities to try to mitigate those as best we can. Until we get into it, we're kind of handcuffed to some degree.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah.
What I thought was interesting in studying these whole charts is Rash Construction, their cost to remove pavements and stuff by percentage-wise was way lower than the other two compared to the cost of actual construction. You know, they weren't too far off, but do you have any idea why their removal cost is so much lower than the others?
It's how people bid is a mystery to me at times. I know I've worked with Rash historically, and I know they have the ability to do a lot of their own removals and handling of the materials in their own manner. I think maybe just having that personnel and equipment in-house helps. I know there's some discussions on what they want to do with that material. They might have salvage costs that they could claim with some of that material that others may not have considered. As for instance, if they crush that existing pavement, that could be reused or sold to contractor benefit. So there might be something there that, you know, we're not seeing at face value that might be a benefit to the contract.
Okay.
Any other questions for Randy? And if I understood you right, our marching orders is we have, essentially, we need motions for two resolutions. The first one is to accept the low bid, and the second one is to approve the contract, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions for Randy? So I would seek a motion to approve the resolution for the award of contract to Roush Construction in the amount of $3,550,680.08.
So moved.
Second.
Who was second? Okay, Kyle, so Laverne and then Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. So then, follow-up to that would be a motion to approve the resolution to approve the contract and bond to Rush Construction.
So moved.
Second.
And that was, again, Laverne and Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Randy, I think you're still on for item C. It would be the street maintenance facility.
Thank you, Mayor. The street maintenance facility project is nearing final completion, and we're able to reasonably project what revenue and expenditures have been on the project. I've indicated those in your memorandum. The net difference is a balance of revenue over expenditure of about $194,000. That, as the project is closed out, that money could be distributed to a fund or funds from which it came. That's one alternative. Another alternative is to utilize some of that funding to purchase equipment that's needed for the building. You recall when we bid the project, there were 11 alternates listed, of mostly equipment. We did award 3 of those in the original contract, so there are a few pieces of equipment that may be needed yet in the project. Also, we did leave out some equipment entirely from the contract with the idea that some equipment can be purchased through the normal budgeting process, compete with the use of other funds. We have proposed a list of equipment, and I've included that in your memorandum, several different items. Some were included as alternatives in the original bid, and some were just omitted from the contract, planning on bringing them forward to you during the regular budget process. That total is about just under $140,000 in those items. We've also initiated the first priority one, asphalt replacement. Actually, the asphalt replacement was the subject of a credit in our change order number 4. It was a credit of just over $6,000, but we have proposed to replace that asphalt that was originally in the contract and then expand the size of the asphalt pad a little bit in between the building, the street maintenance facility, and the salt shed to the extent of about almost $30,000. We did take 3 proposals from asphalt paving companies. That 29,820 was the low proposal submitted by Blacktop Services. So at this point, we would request your consideration of consenting to moving forward with expending some of that balance on equipment for the street maintenance facility. Certainly, each purchase would follow the requirements of the purchasing policy. And then your consideration of accepting the proposal of Blacktop Services Company for the asphalt replacement in the amount of $29,820.
Very good. What questions does the council have for Randy? Anything maybe first off on the equipment, some of the additional items there. Actually, two different questions before us. But primarily, the biggest ask is going to be the asphalt replacement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any questions for Randy?
Randy, what is this vertical conveyor used for?
That's to move equipment or move material from the ground floor up to the mezzanine. That was an alternate in the original bid documents and was not accepted.
What will be stored up there that it's going to be used for?
Almost anything. We anticipate some of our extra streetlight poles, streetlight fixtures, anything that we could store longer term rather than things we use every day. And the alternative is carrying it up the steps.
That was what I was going to ask.
Signposts, sign blanks can also be stored up there.
So you're going to make several trips by hand or just one and done, right? Essentially what
Yeah, it
vertical
might be
lifter-
more than
you know what I
one,
mean,
but,
yeah.
it's a matter of carrying up the steps or using
Right.
an elevator,
Yeah.
pretty much what it is. And it was, in all honesty, it was bid in the original project. I think the alternative pricing on it was well over this proposal
Okay.
at 62,000.
So is there a lot of weight to this stuff that you gotta carry up?
Some there is, the streetlight, these 150 streetlight poles that we bought are fairly heavy for the downtown streetscape project. And then it's a matter of bundles of whatever signposts or whatever it is.
Where are those light poles stored at right now, Randy?
They were out at the wastewater treatment plant in the unheated storage building out there. They've been moved, I think, to the 403 East 3rd Street maintenance garage at this point. And it's, it'll be up to the street maintenance personnel as to what they believe is the best use for that area of the mezzanine.
So roughly, we've got $200,000 left over that we want to spend, right?
Well, we're anticipating maybe 140,000 of it, but each item obviously we'd receive proposals on it, bring those to your table if they are required to by the purchasing policy and make the decision on whether or not to buy them. But it was just a matter of, I wanted to get this out on the table that, we believe there's some equipment that is still needed at that maintenance garage.
Do you have any other hoists there, vehicle lift system, or is this just gonna be the one?
A vehicle lift?
Yeah, the vehicle lift. Is this an additional one, or is this gonna be the sole one? Because I
No.
don't remember seeing one down there.
We have purchased a wheel lift system.
Wheel lift, but a vehicle lift is.
And that will lift vehicles, but only by axle.
Okay,
And that was purchased through the regular budgeting process last fiscal year. So we had proposed it and it was approved. And then this vehicle lift would be for, like, that one will lift a truck. And they're portable. So it's not a fixed lift system. This one also is semi-portable is what we anticipate. And it would lift the pickups and cars, smaller items.
any other questions for Randy?
I'm just a little confused. On this recommendation on number 1 that you got here, that's just to allow you to go get bids on these things?
We
Okay,
would-
so all this will come back to us later on? Everything on number 1?
We're proposing anything that falls within the purchasing policy to come
$5
back
grand.
to you, will come back to you.
The 5
Yeah.
grand?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
I think it's 10.
Okay.
And some of the smaller stuff, if there's a nod tonight, we'd probably pursue it.
What's the council's wishes?
My two hangups are the pressure washer at 26 grand and that vertical conveyor at 62, which they're probably gonna come back more than that 10 grand where we can make the decision on it. I definitely think a pressure washer is needed, but $26,000 seems like a lot for one. That vertical conveyor, my personal feelings, I don't know if there's that much use for it of 62,000. If it's my money, I have a hard time spending that.
To justify it.
Yeah, when we have the other building, we can store stuff in that could be upstairs.
What did our insurance premiums just go up?
16%,
What's the dollar amount on that?
400 and change, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, the vertical conveyor may prevent workman's comp claims
Exactly.
and lower our
Exactly what I
mod.
was thinking too.
Yeah, so.
So really, those two we don't decide on tonight. All we decide on is you to go get bids, and then later on, we can decide on that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let's pursue
So
the
we can-
numbers
So
and
we can
decide.
get more
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So, if I'm understanding everybody right, I mean, is the council asking him to go ahead and pursue these then on item number one, these items, and get quotes on them and then represent them?
Yes.
Is that
I
correct?
would make that
would be-
motion.
More information is good.
Okay, so you made a motion to that, Misty? Did you
I'll
second
second,
it?
sure.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call?
Seaman,
Yes.
Dirk,
Yes.
Warnero,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Okay, and then on item number two, this is just the blacktop resurfacing in the amount of $29,820. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Carolyn,
Second.
seconded by Misty. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Randy, one question real quick. With that being a salt pad, how long is the life expectancy on that with the salt sitting on
I was
that?
gonna ask the same thing. Now you're asphalting something right next to a salt pad that would just eat it away like no other.
Well, it's asphalt, not
Need
concrete. It's not
asphalt.
concrete.
It's inert, asphalt's inert to salt.
Yeah, it's not
We've got
concrete.
asphalt on the floor of the salt shed, and it's
I'd rather
10
have
years,
asphalt.
12 years old.
Okay.
Good
It's,
to know.
it's just what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't put concrete in
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, any further discussion? We still have a motion and a second. No other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bauer,
Yes.
Warnero,
Yes.
Dirk,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So we now will move on to item D, which is the water well, number 19, our old friend, number 19.
it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In October of '22, we began some rehabilitation of well number 19. If you recall, it was quite an extensive rehabilitation project that resulted in not much increase in specific capacity. So in December of that year, you approved some additional rehab work that included some chemical addition and some mechanical scrubbing of the well. That has been completed, once again, without much improvement in specific capacity of the well. During this period of time, there was a rehab of another well in the city with another procedure, an high-pressure air procedure that really resulted in good capacity improvement. Now, the high-pressure air was used to try to break up some solid deposits that were in the screen of the well. The well number 19, the water tests at this point indicate that it's fouled with drilling fluid. So it's not a solid fouling of the well screen, but more of a heavy liquid fouling of the well screen. But those that we've dealt with believe that there could be a possibility of the high pressure treatment of this well, well number 19, could be successful in helping remove some of this drilling fluid from the local formation outside the screen. So we've requested a proposal from Lane Christensen Company. They have submitted it in the amount of $12,855 to perform that high pressure cleaning of the well. That I've indicated the price that we've paid and may pay with the approval of that proposal at just under $80,000 for the well number 19 rehab. Unless you have any questions, we'd recommend your consideration of approval of the Lane proposal to proceed with the high pressure air scouring of this well in an attempt to regain some of the specific capacity of that well.
What if this doesn't work?
Then we would recommend pumping the well at its current capacity and no further rehab. This is about the end of the line on rehab of the well. It's important, I guess, for your information, we believe it's important to have this well number 19 producing at the best capacity it can. Because the alternative is abandonment of the well. But in well number 19 houses the generator that we use to power the wells on the west end of town. So we would have, if you abandon the well, you'd have a building built and property just to house a generator. So we think that, kicking over every stone in trying to rehab this well is probably in the better long-term interest. But beyond this air treatment, we don't have any other proposal for rehab.
How old is this well-ish?
This well is about 10 years old.
Is
It's
that-
one of the new ones. It's one of the two newest ones on the west edge of town.
The funding for this is gonna come out of what fund?
Water utility.
Okay.
It probably sounds like a silly question, but if that doesn't work and that's what they've proposed, I mean, is there any going back to them and saying this is what we're just out?
I believe we're just out. This was a joint decision. I mean, we discussed this at length with both the Lane and Western Company, who is the contractor, and the company we had originally hired, Water Systems Engineering, way back prior to the October. They had formulated the plan for rehabbing this well, which hasn't been all that successful.
Yeah, I think all of us will agree we're, totally dependent upon your recommendation, I think. I mean, to dumb it down, at least for me, is if we choose not to do it, it's only gonna produce at so much capacity, which is highly restrained and limited, okay?
Yes.
And then so, if that's the case, then the next solution would be another well, would it not?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So,
would.
yeah, I mean, I get Misty's point completely.
I was just curious.
Yeah, but I get it completely. Is,
Well-
can we just limp along with it and be satisfied with that? But again, at the same time, if it might cause a whole nother well again, then,
But also, Randy, I'm just curious, because I can't remember, even though I've been here for 8 years, if we were to dig a new well, to do a new well today, what are we looking at?
With a reasonably limited transmission main cost, it would probably be about $250,000.
Okay.
And we're running to where we may need more transmission main. If you recall what your well field is, we've moved west about as far as we can. The next step gets us quite close to the landfill. And that's generally not acceptable to pump near the landfill. So it's new well field time.
What percentage capacity is this right now to full capacity?
This is, I'm trying to recall, about a third of what it was originally, when it was originally drilled.
it's producing a third or it's minus a third? Producing a
Producing a
third.
third, yeah. It was in the, I believe, and I'd have to check it, I believe it was in about the 9 feet, 9 gallons per foot specific capacity, and now it's just about, it's between 3 and 4.
Randy, have we ever encountered drilling fluid before in a well?
We have not.
Is that rare?
It is. I mean, the drilling process that's specified should not result in contamination by drilling fluid.
Okay.
It happens. In fact, Lane Christensen did not drill this well, but they have said that it has happened before and they've seen it before, but it's rare.
Okay. Have they had success in similar situations? Or any
They-
at all, or?
They have not employed, their high-pressure system is a little bit different than we used in your well number 12. But they have not employed that system to remove drilling fluid. It's
Oh, this
usually,
is-
it's used for other corrections of other problems.
So this is purely experimental from their end?
Well,
Or
they know
last-
how to do it. That's not experimental. They don't know what the results will be.
Okay,
With
okay,
a
that's-
fluid, there's drilling fluid outside the screen has been pushed into the local aquifer. And they believe, and we reasonably do also in discussions with them, that this could help that situation. Is it a guarantee? No, it is not.
Thank you.
And his illustration shows that there's been several attempts to rehab it, and we're still in the same boat, so. Well, so what is the council's wishes to move forward, please?
We're into this far. Might as well try one last ditch effort. So, at
Pardon
this
the
point,
pun?
yeah,
Why not?
Is that a motion?
yep.
Okay, we have a motion to
Second.
approve the resolution accepting the quotation of Lane Christensen for well 19 in the amount of $12,855. Did I hear a second from Tom? Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Randy, you're still on. We have
Okay.
a
Mayor.
high-speed pump replacement here.
Yeah, you are budgeted in the next fiscal year for replacement of a pump at the high service pump station. Actually, it's a replacement of one of the three pumps in that station. And the proposal is to replace it with a variable frequency drive pump. Right now, all three pumps are constant speed pumps, and this variable frequency would give, of course, a new pump, obviously, and then a little flexibility in the operation of that pump as far as quantity of water pumped. In order to initiate that project, we have worked with JEO Consulting Group to prepare a professional services agreement for the design work and then some construction-related work in order to get through this project. I've included their fees broken down, some lump sum during construction, hourly not to exceed, and with a total estimated cost of $59,670. We'd originally anticipated that the pump replacement construction itself would be about $252,000. So the total current estimated project cost is just over $300,000. You currently have $300,000 in next year's budget for this replacement. Timeframe goes to bidding it in January of 2024 with completion probably during 2024. And this project, it's obviously inside, so weather is not a factor in this project. It can be constructed at practically any time. So unless there are any questions, I would recommend your consideration of approval of the professional services agreement with JEO at their estimated fee of $59,670.
There you have it. Questions? Is there a motion to approve the recommendation here of the resolution, approve the contract, professional services with JEO in the amount of $59,670?
So moved.
Second.
Misty and then Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Randy, I think one last thing. We've got bridge inspection proposal.
Yes,
6 bridges in town, is that right?
8.
8 bridges.
Yes.
I'm missing one, or missing 2 of them.
Thank you.
Yeah. go ahead.
National Bridge Inspection Standards require inspection of all bridges every 2 years, which the city has historically done. We have most recently employed the firm of HGM Associates to perform those inspections of the 8 bridges in the city. This year, the city is fortunate enough to have been selected by the Iowa DOT for a records and inspection audit. And it's something that isn't normally done, although the DOT does it annually, but not for the city. In fact, the city is the only client of HGM this year that got selected for an audit. So in order to get through that, we're recommending that HGM be employed to prepare the documentation and provide that information to the DOT and attend the field audit that the DOT will perform. Excuse me, and that will be on the 2021 inspection. So the inspection 2 years ago is what's being audited. And our bridges are required or inspections need to be completed on them by October of '23 to stay on the biennial inspection rotation. Excuse me. So HDM has prepared a proposal to perform this work, $16,250 for the audit-related work, and then $4,800 for the biennial bridge inspection and the audit will be performed as it can be scheduled with the Iowa DOT, and then the bridge inspections, like I said, were due by October of this year. So unless there are any questions, I'd request your consideration of approving the HGM proposal for the bridge record and inspection audit and 23 bridge inspections in the amount of $21,050.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I read the memo through on Friday that the expensive part is the audit part and the inspection part is the cheaper part of it. So I thought that was backwards. I had to look twice, but that's the case, huh?
They have historically performed the inspections, so they're well aware of all the physical attributes of the bridges that are out there. So it's just a matter of a work coming and taking a look at them, updating those audits, or excuse me, those bridges.
Are they and you confident it can be done by October 23?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
The only questions I had. Anybody else have questions for Randy on this?
Just seems kind of strange that you're selected for an audit that you have to pay for.
Yeah.
Instead of somebody-
You win.
Well, I can't explain it, but I can offer an explanation. Obviously, counties have a lot more bridges than cities, and they have up to 300 bridges plus. A lot of counties employ people that they keep trained. The training for bridge inspection is really detailed, and the city of Carroll with 8 bridges can't afford to have a guy trained all the time for 8 bridge inspections every 2 years. But counties can, because they're inspecting a number of bridges every year. So if a county is selected for an audit, their in-house personnel, if they're trained inspectors, would be preparing this information. So their cash out of pocket would not be in addition to the salaries they're already paying. But because the situation we're in, we employ a consultant to do our bridge inspections. Hence, we employ a consultant to prepare for an audit. It's kind of the way it is.
Makes sense now.
Do we still have to meet some of that real high level, what was that, fracture critical type of scenarios, just like the counties do?
Yes.
Even though we don't have the tonnage going over them or anything, but we still have to meet that criteria?
Well, if you're not a posted bridge, you're open to the same legal axle loads going over them. And yes, they're all inspected for fracture critical.
Are all ours posted?
We have no posted bridges.
No posted, okay.
They're all
So it's just the other way around.
legal axle loads.
Any other questions for Randy? So he's seeking approval of the resolution for in the amount of $21,050 to HGM Associates. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Tom,
Second.
seconded by Misty. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bornero,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Dirk.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, Randy, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to item G, which is, let's see, Laura, I'm showing here about, well, I'm going to go off 6:15 is what this is showing. I'm going to open the public hearing on the matter of the adoption of the 23 amendment to the Carroll Urban Revitalization Plan. And Laura, turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, this is a time for the public hearing on updating or amending our current Carroll Urban Revitalization Plan. If you recall, this request came for the city to look at a different abatement schedule that would be in our downtown urban renewal area for 100% abatement for 10 years on improvements on multi-residential property. The public hearing notice was approved, or it was published on May 30th, so that's well within the timeline that's required. And tonight is the time for the public hearing, and then after the public hearing, council action to adopt the proposed 2023 amendment to the Carroll Urban Revitalization Plan.
Great.
And as of, there were no comments received in the office.
Yeah, your memo said there was nothing, and so nothing since then.
None, no.
I received none. Did anybody receive any comment on it whatsoever? Any questions for Laura on this? We've kind of been kicking this can down the road too, quite a while. This is just the next step.
Yes.
But this is kind of the final step,
This
right?
is the final step, yes.
Okay, so seek any other discussion, and then if not, we will, any comments from those in attendance? Step right on it.
On page 2,
Randy Toft.
the last item, current project schedule on Adams Street, you kind of blew by that.
I'm sorry, Randy, I missed the question.
He's asking something that we've already gone by. He was asking about the Adams Street scheduling, but that was,
Oh, okay.
that wasn't one.
So not on this public hearing for this issue? We're in a public hearing right now for the,
sorry.
for the amendment.
I apologize.
That's all right. If you like, I'll circle back to you, if that's fine. Okay, is there anything else, any comments while the public hearing is still underway? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. I'm showing 6:18, almost 6:19, but 6:18 is fine. And then, so what we're seeking then is a motion to approve the resolution for the amendment to the, I'm at a loss of words, yeah, the proposal for the amendment, yes, thank you, sorry. Yeah, I was off a line.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, motion by Tom, seconded by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so before I'm going to move, I'm going to address this real quick here. But you had a quick question about the project plan, Randy, about on Adams Street,
The schedule,
the schedule. What's the question specifically?
when would we not be able to use Adams Street?
Well, now that, I'm going to let you finish this, but now that we have essentially approved the contract, it's now the contractor's responsibility to finish the job, but it's now totally up to them. Now, the last brief discussion we had with them at bid opening was that they were going to start on stage 2, which is the south end of it, this year, and take pretty much the whole construction season in order to do that. And then they would do stage 1 at start of construction season next year. But that is subject to change because they now own the job. They can change their mind at will. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that? Is that pretty well encompass that?
That does, yes. We'll get a firm schedule from the contractor. We haven't received one yet. He did verbally discuss that at the time of bid letting. But no, we will get a firm schedule from him and get it out to everyone, advise all residents of it.
Yeah, and like any construction project, Randy, the contractors, they understand inconveniences, you know, as well as any of us do, so they're gonna make all reasonable accommodations. As far as not using Adam Street, you know, they'll make those determinations, you know, at their disposal.
I'm not complaining about the inconvenience, just want to know when the inconvenience is going.
Is going to absolutely start. Well, we just took the most important step. We're going to hand them a contract. And so now it's their job to, you know, to begin it. But all indications were they were, you know, prepared to do so rather imminently, correct?
Yes, that's what they've
Do
indicated.
we have plans for a meeting that they're going to relate that to somebody, or?
We'll be receiving that information and we'll be distributing it, yes.
So property owners will be kept abreast as reasonable as possible.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, where was I? I was on item number H, which is $350,000 general obligation capital loan note. And Laura, that is still on your swim lane.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mark. If you recall, when we were preparing our fiscal '23 budget, we had approved, or council had approved what we call a pre-levy resolution, where we were gonna ask for some taxes to pay for some street improvements that we're planning to do in construction season of 2022. At the time of that, it was not determined if the Adam Street reconstruction project was gonna be completed, or if another overlay project or restoration project was gonna be completed. Shortly thereafter, it was determined that a restoration project was gonna be completed during the 2022 construction season. Knowing that, it was determined that, or the amount of the taxes that we asked for was just under $350,000. Now the project's been completed, we've included those taxes, and we've collected those taxes during this fiscal '23 year. Now we need to actually issue that debt, so that we have shown that we issued the debt for the taxes that we collected. So working with both Allers and Cooney, Kristen Cooper at Allers is our bonding attorney, and I approached Commercial Savings Bank about doing a one-day loan so that we can show that we issued this debt. And Craig Mertz was very willing to work with us, and so we have set and agreed to a one-day loan at 0% interest for a $200 processing fee. So in the memo, there's a slight change. It came to our attention on Friday that we had originally scheduled the loan closing for this coming Monday, June 19th, which is actually a federal holiday, Juneteenth. So we have worked with the commercial to change that closing date to June 20th. So, I gotta make that change here. So we will actually be doing the actual loan paperwork and stuff on the 20th and paying it off on the 21st.
Good catch.
Kristen caught that and she called me. And I called Craig and we had a quick conference call.
Yeah,
on what
I
to
read
do.
June 19th and.
Yep,
thinking,
I
but-
didn't even think of it either, because it's not a holiday that we observe here at City Hall.
Right.
So, anyway, Craig was great to work with. He said, yep, let's do this. Kristen said, okay, yep, let's just change the documents. If all was good, everybody was fine with it. So what's before you tonight is a resolution to approve and authorize the loan agreement, and then for us to basically finish up the paperwork, and then issue the debt and pay it off.
So moved.
Any questions? I do like how you roll, but we have some protocol here. Okay, so there is a motion to approve the resolution for the, I know, he left the car running, and for the loan agreement with essentially commercial savings for the one day. And is there a second to that? Because we have a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Cornell?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Resolution's approved.
You want to take it from here, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got a few more things we could.
That's starting to be funny.
I'm just seeing if he's paying attention, and he was, so. Okay, we are now to Item I, and it is audit services proposal for fiscal year 23, 24, and 25, and still Laura.
Yes, I think this is my last one, right? Yes, it is.
You're counting.
Yes. So, we had our auditor, Feldman and Company, Jennifer Walcott, presented our fiscal 22 audit about a month ago. And that was our third year of a 3-year agreement. So I had requested to receive proposals from a number of firms. Summary was included with your information. We received 2, one from Feldman and Company, our current auditor, and then one from a company, I believe out of Des Moines. And as you can see from the comparisons, the dollar amounts were quite far apart. So we are recommending, or staff is recommending, that we continue to work with Feldman and Company for another 3 years on our audit for the fiscal years 23, 24, and 25.
I suppose that's because of travel, maybe.
That could be part of it.
Yeah.
And we know we're getting a really good deal with our local auditor and the fees.
And no complaints. I mean, she's been doing it, she can do it in her sleep, I think, so. Any questions? Yeah. Yes. Is there a motion to approve the
So moved.
attached resolution with the Feldman and Company for fiscal year 25?
23, 24.
23, 24, 25, sorry.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Okay, Kyle, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Fornero?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. Okay. Well, you're off the hook now, Laura.
Thank
But
you,
now we're
Laura.
going to put Aaron on the hook. Item number J is housing discussion. And we're going to have just kind of a general housing discussion here. And then at the conclusion of it, there's a suggestion that we consider a resolution that would amend our current housing incentives. So, Aaron, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, as you all know, we've had a committee of council members having a discussion regarding housing. They have done a great job of looking at a lot of different things. I'm gonna let Kyle kind of overview the majority of that, but it's been a good discussion, and I'm excited to move forward with some of these proposals and let Kyle take it from there.
Well, hang on. The first thing is to change the current one we have, the dates. He's got a whole nother plan. Remember? Right now, if we stay with what we got, they only got 15 months.
Right, that's the resolution adopting and revising infill housing, so
Okay, so that's coming up.
that's coming up.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's all right.
That's all right.
So I think the first thing that we jump into is possible, and potential of having housing and development on the golf course, beyond Northwest Street. There'd be an option of 10 lots that would be available for sale. Currently, it's just rough ground that's being mowed. There would be some infrastructure cost, that would be needed for out there, but it would service a large area as well for potential development. Is that correct, Randy?
Can you put that up?
So through the sale of the lots, we'll recoup our infrastructure cost.
Basically, what you have in front of you is, I asked Randy to kind of give us kind of a quick draw of the lots and what it could look like. A general city lot anymore is about 100 by 150 feet deep. We have 10 lots there that could be 150 feet deep. The 4 to the south, which is to the left up on the screen, I added a little bit extra, which is the small boxes on the, closer to the fairway. Those are actually extra 50 feet, so you could actually go 200 feet on those 4 lots without really affecting the fairway or the golf course whatsoever. The 6 lots to the, it's actually directionally, it's to the north of those other 4 lots are actually kind of more in the possibility of getting hit by golf balls, so probably not wanting to make them as deep and not quite as desirable as those first 4, but they could be pretty desirable as a house on a golf course. There are options. You can actually expand the width of some of these lots a little bit by not affecting a lot of the space there much more, but we could expand maybe even particularly these first 4 lots by 12 to 20 feet and make them an even nicer lot for a residential development.
So I was talking to Chad Arnett, to move the fairway, not the green, it's just a matter of mowing? That's all we do?
Yep.
So
So
they're-
the same type of grass until you really start getting to what I would say is the stunted growth, the yellow grass there. It would just be reshaped in that instance.
So what's the proposed infrastructure cost, and then what are you thinking per lot? And
Realistically, it's gonna require us to run force main from where our sewer is now to a lift station, which would be just close to the south of the Public Works building, or not, the Parks buildings there, correct? And then we'd have gravity flow all the way up to the top. So it's gonna be a significant increase for sewer, which would be ballpark $775,000 for sewer for there. But that then opens up to the west, or all of that farm ground, and even further to the north for gravity flow, which would make that a better development or choice for development in the future. Water is already run along the road, so we would not have to run a water main. It's already there, and I believe it's an 8-inch last time I looked.
So Tom, we're looking at a price structure for these lots to be able to recoup our cost.
so it'll be a wash.
Possibly,
Nowadays, we
yes.
create a better tax base.
You know, we're just mowing grass there now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
And,
so
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I grabbed a house off the assessor's website, you know, if it had a $500,000 valuation, which most of these homes probably will or more on the golf course, they're paying taxes of just under $7,400, which the city gets roughly half of that. So you'd be looking roughly $36,000 a year increased revenue if every house was a $500,000 valuation. So
Well, yeah, but that's just from the taxes. We're gonna recoup the cost from the sale of
on the sell
lots.
lots too, yes.
And your sale for water and sewer.
Yes.
And the lift station would be more than needed for this project in anticipation of springboarding further development.
Correct.
So,
Definitely opens up potential across the road in the field for that farmer who owns it now to sell for future housing development, as we all know that we need.
Who owns that ground?
Pete Simons.
Have we talked with him?
I have several times, several years. Hasn't shown much of an interest, but I haven't talked to him recently and not in this capacity. But I know him well enough to ask. I think I know the answer, but I'll gladly talk to him.
Was there any discussion about, just curious about possibly making those lots a little bit wider?
And fewer lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they're narrow myself too, and you're gonna have to get 78 grand out of them if that's by 10.
So, Misty, at this point, we didn't want to get into the weeds so much on all this until we had full council, you know, approval to move forward. Once we get that, then we'll get into the weeds more and come back with another proposal or some variances.
And these will be driveway right off of that road.
They don't need a frontage road there, I guess. They can just have a driveway
I
right
would
off
look at
there.
it just like on the other side on Grant Road, how some of those houses are across the way.
Yeah. So they'll just back right into Northwest Street, essentially, right?
Kyle, the example you gave
35 mile an hour zone.
of the house, how large was that lot?
Um, the front and rear are 133 on this $500,000 valuation, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe look at widening those lots, even if you goes from 10 down to 9, just to make them a little bit wider.
My thoughts are if I'm gonna buy a lot on the golf course, I really don't want my neighbor right up next to me.
Yeah.
That's just,
Yeah.
And there's some more room there to expand as well. So, and I think too, I would think we make this to where, if I say I buy a lot, I can't buy the one next to me and not build a house just because I don't want a neighbor.
well, that's what I would do.
Can you do that?
Yes, it just we'll sell it to you, but you have to, it's a little bit like taking the Nealon property. And if somebody wants to buy it, they have to rehab it in a certain amount of time.
But doesn't that also make it less marketable to some?
Could.
Maybe.
If we expand these lots to 130 by 100 by 200, though, that would be over a half acre lot right there. Yeah, what'd you figure, 0.6 of an acre?
Yep.
And
So-
you can do that with those 4 pretty easy.
Okay. We don't want to get too far into the weeds, and it's just a general discussion, but I mean, what are you guys seeking out of the council tonight then? Is just an open receptiveness,
Yeah, I think-
general,
And input also,
and input?
yes.
The only input that I would offer, and I can be brief, is, and I've expressed this day one, is, again, I'm pretty well open to it. But what I don't want to do is, we'd have to, how we're gonna fund this thing. And then more importantly, I would not be in favor of just laying in all of that utility and then hope we sell them.
Yeah.
I don't want another Ashwood.
We kind of discussed that too, and, being we own the property, we can put some limitations on how we sell this. We need so many lots sold to cover the cost of our infrastructure before we even move forward. Obviously, we have to go to legal authorities to find out if we can do all this, but, basically tonight is to just, do you want us to move forward on this as a council, as a vote, or just be done with it? And if you want to move forward, then we'll start getting more of that information and make it more public.
I think too, most of these are probably gonna be custom built homes, which the contractor's out, a period of time. If these are marketed, you still have to put infrastructure in. I truly believe these are gonna sell, and
My next question would be, are we selling them on our own with the use of our legal and not going with a realtor in town? Has there been any discussion about that?
A little bit, but,
No, we haven't
let's
really,
just,
Well,
we've got to get tonight done to get okay, and then we get into the weeds.
does the concept, do you think does it appeal to the rest of you? Do you think there would be a market, a
I
need?
think there'd be a market in a heartbeat. It's
I
on a golf
mean,
course.
I
there
think there's a
haven't
market.
been any home, it's filled around the golf course.
And are we talking just houses? Are we talking condos, duplexes, just homes, single family?
All the
Say all the
all
above.
the above.
Hadn't gotten to the weeds that far.
No,
I don't think you would want condos or duplexes on those first 4. But after that, that kind of depends on what we're talking.
And just curious, because I have no idea, but I'm asking, because it is so close. I drive that road every day, and there's always somebody driving out there in a golf cart to get a ball. So what
It really wouldn't be any
Homeowners
different than
insurance?
hole number 5. Hole
I
number
know.
5 is built right
Yep.
along those. Get
But it's homeowners
to get
insurance,
some of
right?
that covered, and
It's not us? Okay,
So the people
Just
that.
clarifying.
The people that buy these lots to build, they will know
I know.
there's potential.
That's what happens.
Carolyn, you
Especially a tiny
lived there
house.
for years, you
God,
know.
That's what happens when
we
you live on a
raised
golf course.
Yeah.
Our girls there, I won't tell you my stories. It appeals to a lot of people. And, yeah, I lived there in the 80s, then Jeff Sharpenkamp bought our house, and then Lois Bureau. And I mean, there are pros and cons to every location.
Sure.
But I believe this would appeal to people because there hasn't been any development, it's gone. Those houses get snapped up along the golf course. That's all I can tell you, but.
So, there's a housing shortage, and this is one way the city can take something that we're just mowing grass to help with the housing shortage. Obviously, these people might be in another home that somebody else can buy, we don't know all that, but
Right.
this is one way the city can help out themselves with the housing shortage.
Do you have any input?
No, we can make do.
And is irrigation and whatnot
It's,
nowhere near
It's
that?
not far offset of where that is, it will be fine.
It'd be nowhere in this property?
What would you see as the next step, you guys? I mean, you've already visited with a real estate agent who thinks that dog will hunt. It was the report I got.
Yep.
So then, back to Misty's point, he may no longer be interested if it's gonna be direct sell, because, you gotta talk 6%, is that the going rate these days? Whether or not they wanna pursue it. What do you see as the next step?
I think figure out logistics of how wide these lots need to be to make sure that they're desirable and sellable, for a $500,000 house.
Yep.
Especially on the first 4 lots, if they're condos, townhouses on down, maybe look at some other ones that have been built, see what the size of those lots are,
I think that's a good
to
thing.
make sure that.
I thought they were narrow too. It's the first
Yeah.
thing I said to
So
you
this,
that day.
this is obviously just the first public exposure for all this.
Right.
So some of this
Which is
is,
good.
maybe we just sit back and get some people getting a hold of us and telling us what they feel they want, and we take all that data, and as a group, we discuss that and then bring it back to the council with all that information.
Okay.
I would love to have, my personal opinion, I'd like to see something, in 2 weeks, have something on the agenda to be able to get the ball rolling on some things.
Do you think you can be ready for that?
If you.
Yeah. I think you're gonna have, people are either gonna give their input right away if they're interested, or they're not. I mean,
I'm open to it, but again, and I won't have a vote as a council, but my belief is I want to have them sold
Yeah,
before the taxpayers have to pay for them first.
That was part
There
of
you
our
go.
discussion too.
I agree.
Yeah,
Pre-sell them and then we'll move forward.
yeah.
But I don't
just-
think I'll
And
have
we
problems
had
selling
that
them.
discussion too.
I think you're already gonna create interest with this. I mean, if I want that first lot, I'm gonna be calling and seeing what it's
I'd
gonna
call
take.
Laverne right now. What's your number? Put it out there.
Well,
and then just-
the next question is, we gotta make sure that.
I think Kyle's
that-
more interested in Laverne.
I don't know how
Ready to
the
dig.
buying process
Fill
will
that-
be, but we gotta make sure that we're fair
With that mansion.
Yeah.
to
It just,
all parties that want a piece of that.
we'll just see what kind of interest it is after tonight.
Yeah.
And I know we're getting off into the weeds, but
Yeah.
I mean, in 2 weeks, would we be talking about some kind of development agreement or anything like that, or?
We need, what needs to happen is we have to decide.
Time to cross
on
the
a
bridge
final
is before
plat.
we get to the bridge, is what
Well,
I'm saying.
and-
And, obviously, we don't have a developer's agreement because we're essentially the
We're the
developer.
developer.
But,
Well-
we would have to sit down and kind of finish finalizing how we are gonna sell them, have a final plat. Cause that has to be platted before we can
2
actually do
weeks
it,
might be pretty quick, but
right?
Yeah.
but
Anything
we would
else I
like
forget?
to,
Yeah.
if this gets okayed, we would like to get going on it.
Can we wait till after Rag, Brian? You get
But
that?
this is only one of our 3 proposals tonight.
One at a time.
Yeah,
Is that it for now?
yeah, on the golf course.
Okay.
And your
Go
phone
ahead.
number? What was it, Laverne?
What's that?
Your phone number? What was that? Cell number?
Was there another
love you,
proposal
Tom.
tonight?
I know.
We have
Yes.
a couple other.
Yeah, we have 2 more.
Bring up a couple other things.
So last week, on, I think it was Thursday that we met with, Iowa Economic Development Authority here on some grants that are available. Really, focused on downtown upper living, second story. Some larger towns around us have done it, even some smaller ones. Really fixed up the underutilized or areas that are not utilized at all right now. And some of these programs are almost paying for the full entire reconstruction of the upstairs housing, really helping bring life to downtown. So
So it's not only just the upper level. You can have a store that is a single level, but 50% of it has to be for the business. So the back half of it, you could have as housing. And if you know Jim Thompson from, IEDA, very aggressive with this. And he says we have potential in this town to be able to grant a lot of money to these people if they're willing to remodel. Or just some, some of us are vacant right now, so it wouldn't even be a remodel, it'd be construction. So he made it sound like, and I've been with Jim Thompson for almost 2 years now with all these meetings I go to in the state, and the money out there is sounds pretty lucrative for this type of investment.
What's the process for getting a hold of it?
Well, first of all, I think what we really need to do is we need to communicate with these property owners and say, hey, there is a lot of money involved that could be gotten to help revitalize and remodel your buildings.
building.
And then it becomes a process with Region 12, and the city has to be the pass-through for those grants. And then, so then there's a developer's agreement, and that's getting down the weeds. It's just a matter of making sure the council's okay with us sending out letters trying to promote this grant opportunity for those business owners.
And it's not like you're gonna get all of them in 1 year. He said maybe 1 or 2 a year you can get.
I think there's just so many programs out there too. People don't realize what's even all out there. I mean, there was one that I never even heard of that was presented the other day that really even opened my eyes, and not realizing that there's money out there for it. So
we're talking right now, second story housing, apartment style, downtown, central business
So
district.
if the public can get a grasp on it, like the building like the Buckle.
Yeah,
Has 2
that's the
layers
best
above.
example.
As far as I know, they're empty for storage or what. That would be a prime candidate for something like this. Any type of stores, it has to be a business down below. And then the single upper level or the double,
Right.
you can have it sounds like it's a lot of money available for, like Kyle said, Jim Thompson said, you almost can get it all paid for.
And I haven't had much of a chance to visit with you guys, absent after that meeting, but the parking discussion didn't scare anybody off?
Well, no, because he said pretty well, those tenants know they cannot interfere with the business parking. They would probably have to park like a block away.
Is that doable?
Yeah.
I drove
Think of
over,
the Buckle, you got
Westgate
blocks out.
Mall is, boy, there's just not a lot of cars there anymore. I don't know, do you notice that too? That they're just, so if they wouldn't mind walking that block, there's all the parking
Yeah.
He
in the
said,
world.
yeah, he said the key to it, he scores these grants. So he told us specifics on this is how you can get it done. And he said the thing for the landlord to do is to incorporate the language about parking into the lease. And the city can designate an area where it would work with, the snow removal. Remember the discussion we had with Adam for the Anmar building? So he gave us some really good advice for capturing grant money. And he said, if you're not doing this, you're not doing it right. That these types of projects are going on all over the state. And he was really helpful, I guess, bottom line. He was phenomenal.
So when Debbie Durham was here a year ago and I
Yeah,
asked her to come up,
yeah.
she said, we're prime. We're a prime candidate for all this stuff that's available.
So what would you guys see as, or propose as maybe the next step for that? I mean, assuming the council's open to learning
Just
more.
like Aaron said, we're gonna letter propose that we're gonna send out to the current owners
Okay,
and tell them what's, what we're looking at and what's available. And if you're interested, get a hold of us.
and didn't you identify about 10 or 12
I think-
possibles?
I want around town, would I have 15?
So, I think so.
All around town, not
Yeah.
central business
No,
district?
right.
So all around?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would include like
But
the old
that only
brothers?
included the ones that had, places above the current business.
Right,
Talking to Jim Thompson the other day, he said you can use a lower level as long as 50% of that
Is
is for
retail.
business and the other back half of it can be for residential. That
Okay.
also qualifies.
that opens that up too.
What do you think of when you, I'm trying, what is one of something like that? What is a building that you're seeing that's 50% occupied by business that,
I don't know,
did you count it in your count?
no,
No.
no,
Okay.
mine was all upper level.
Okay.
Yeah. And he discussed with us the fact that, and his department is booked until the end of the year, that his department will spend 3 days in Carroll and walk the downtown. He said, you can't drive it. You need to walk it and look at the bricks, look at the windows, look at the details, and they will analyze the potential in our downtown for 3 days, and I think it was something a little over $2,000.
Yeah, I think it's 2,500.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
all of this is food for thought, and, nothing's carved in stone. We're just looking at possibilities. What do we need? What could we benefit from?
Again, we're looking at trying to help housing.
Well, we have a labor shortage, and they need housing at all price points. So we have a lot of competitors for the same laborers we would like to attract. And we've got to jump in. And with everybody working together, I think we can come up with some ideas. We're just throwing out ideas. You guys may have other ones, better ones.
I don't think there's anybody here saying pump the brakes, so.
So we have one more proposal. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, so this would be working with Region 12 with some housing. I know Glidden's done one as a duplex that was put in over there. It was on a city-owned vacant lot. About the city doing something very similar to that, especially over the course of the next couple of years.
Do we have city-owned vacant lots?
We don't, but that doesn't mean we can't do something different working with them, whether we help financially with that or something like that to help them come here. It'd be nice to have Region 12 because Region 12 builds a workforce housing option, whereas obviously our current builders are not necessarily building workforce housing. So if we can work with Region 12 to do a more of a workforce housing type development or building a house or duplex, it would be beneficial because quite frankly, that is one of the big things that the city needs is workforce housing.
So it's not only housing, we're looking at taking other homes and remodeling them, fixing them up so you can have workforce housing also. And right now, financially, this one, we're looking at using probably some local option sales tax, so much each year. That will be a discussion item of council, how much you want to put into this each year to help get this going too.
And not ARPA.
We weren't thinking ARPA on this at all.
Okay. Again, let's not get too terribly off in the weeds, but if it heads in the direction of lost, the one thing that I really want to caution us moving forward is not only the action that we took last year with $400,000 a year committed for 19 years, it's taken a big chunk out of that 1.9 or 2, But, you know, I noticed the last couple of weeks in the Adams Street construction, you know, we allocated $750,000 to that. And if we're gonna do another one of those in 3 years, we gotta start banking that now, because that was over 3 years. So again, I'm just, you know, again, I want to remain open to everything, but at the same time, we still got to work the math.
Right.
Say again, what were you gonna use the lost funds for?
Well, to probably help incentivize the cost of the project with Region 12. Either buy the lot or pay so much for the lot or whatever.
Like you said, most small communities, they have lots that they can just give, and then they add another $5,000 to that. So they're just giving lots and a little bit of money. If we could give some money to them to help them with purchasing lots or something other part of that, that would be a benefit to get some of those things done here in the infill parts of the city.
And if I remember right, Region 12 was gonna do like maybe 1 or 2 homes a year, is that what, or was it, I forgot.
Just, yeah, well,
That's about all they can max out.
yeah.
I think I'm just losing you as far as the lots that I know in town that are open are already owned. So,
That are vacant.
So I'm trying to figure out what you wanna buy them from the person that owns them? I mean, I will tell you, I've tried. There's a lot of people that don't want it bought.
That's what I was telling you all along.
So,
They're not for sale.
I'm just trying to figure out where
I
we're
think
gonna
there's
buy that
houses,
lot.
I think
in
there's
order-
houses that probably should not be standing right now that could be used for that. I mean,
Yeah,
being 100% honest.
no, I agree, but that's a process.
Yeah.
We've already been down that path a time or two, so I agree with you. But,
And then once city gets involved, what happens to the price? I said it. I mean, it's, you know, I'm cautiously open to this one, but again, I just don't want to befall the
I'd
taxpayer.
hear some more detail on it, I just,
Well, we'll get to that, Missy, just, you know, we didn't wanna get into the weeds.
I get
you know,
it.
And then
no,
it did pass tonight.
No, I think more information is good. I just think it might be difficult on that one because I think some of those lots, people won't want to give up and then my hangup would be us playing the middle person of getting a hold of the lot in order to give it to somebody so they can build a workforce house on it. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't
no,
wanna lose-
this is
I
a
don't wanna
good
lose-
discussion, yeah.
I don't wanna lose by not trying. That makes sense?
Yeah, we'll get some information on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hadn't thought that far. I think, you know, we just threw some ideas out.
Yeah.
Wondered if it would fly or worth being pursued,
I think it's always worth pursuing. I just
Yeah.
think when we get right down to the,
but we didn't think through the process. I'm all about process. You want things to work, so you think them through, maybe, you know, so.
good stuff.
So I think we're at a point where we're asking for a council vote to go forward with this, to get into more description of what we want to do in the future. And then we'll come back, so,
I don't think you need to vote on it, do you? I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know.
And
I
go
don't- I
forward.
wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
And look into
discussion
all
item
of it.
only is
Yeah.
what I
Mutual
understood,
agreement,
so.
okay,
Yeah.
then
My
we'll,
thing is with like, so when I asked the question earlier, you talk about leftover money and expenditures, and then how much did this just go up, and you look at our spending, you know, since we've sat here since we've been on this new panel, how much has stuff gone up? To the point where is it gonna catch us? You got, you know, we just did the raises across the board, we got the new insurance coming, everything's exponentially got more expensive, where do we sit right now? And that's just my question maybe for Laura, that, you know, if you look in the future on what we're planning on spending, where do we sit budget-wise? Just out of curiosity.
That's a $64,000
Well,
question.
One of the questions, simple answer, budget-wise, financially through this fiscal year, we're setting pretty good.
We're good.
Yep, we did not spend more than we
Right.
budgeted. We're setting good there.
Right.
Next year, you know, we're anticipating, you know, we had to cut stuff out, but we've moved things around so that we're still getting what we need to perform the job.
Yeah.
When we talk about local option sales tax, we budget very conservatively with how much we bring in each year. We normally bring in more local option sales tax than what we actually budget. So that's kind of where that opportunity to
Right.
say, okay, we've got these things budgeted, well, let's look at this to try and do this, not to go over what, we budget, okay, what did we actually get in and lost receipts this year? Okay, that then just goes into a pot of money that we probably don't necessarily budget to do anything with going forward.
Right.
So maybe we look, okay, we got this much extra in local option sales tax, let's utilize that to be an economic development incentive.
Right, that's all I'm asking, I
So
just,
that's kind of where I'm kind of looking at and trying to I'm not trying to come up with more tax dollars, but using what we've got in. Yeah,
like in general, where
Yeah.
we're at.
yep.
So,
So
The
three-
sky's not falling.
So the three plans we proposed tonight, the golf course, we're hoping not to use, any revenue at all. That hopefully, in, working with IEDA, on the housing for upper level, that's hopefully not any money of ours either, that's all grant money. So you're looking at working with Region 12, they can only do 1 or 2 homes a year, so you may be looking at, $50,000 a year or we'll know more once we get past tonight and working with them, what that dollar figure will be, and we can bring it back to you.
I'm just curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, well, and I think we want to grow, I look at these things as investments because we need to grow our tax base, we need to grow our labor force. Businesses want to expand or new businesses will come when they know there's a reliable workforce. So we need some housing, as Aaron mentioned, the workforce. We're trying to throw out a mix of ideas to you that would appeal to a mix of people. I know.
I liken it to green light thinking. If anybody's ever been familiar with that old
It's good.
Carnegie thing where green light thinking is you just throw everything against the wall and see how much of it sticks. Essentially. you know,
So,
I like it.
being we got the okay, we'll get together and get more into the weeds and then bring it back to council when we're prepared to do that.
Yeah, and if you want to provide an update in 2 weeks, I think that's great,
Okay,
All
all right, we'll
Yeah.
work on it.
Or.
We gotta
or-
meet with a lot of people. We
Yeah.
gotta
Sure.
meet with, Jim Thompson in Region 12.
Yeah, I'm glad to help wherever I can.
Okay.
I'm just a
All righty.
extra
Any
body.
feedback we may have from property owners downtown for the upstairs apartments or living
Well,
would be good too.
this council meeting, and I would venture a guess the newspaper writer might write something about how downtown housing is an opportunity to.
Could you draft a letter this week? Would you guys
I've
be
already got it
ready?
drafted.
Okay, all right.
It's already done, for the
See,
most
you're
part.
finishing my sentences already? You've
I'm
only been
getting
here
there.
3
Pretty
months?
good.
Okay.
Well, I have a quick question. The thing that Jim Thompson offered, the 3-day walk around the city to give us advice for the 2,500, he said, since they're booked through the end of the year, if we're interested, we need to jump into his schedule. So I don't know how we do that. Who approaches, if
We
it's
call-
us or
We
the
call Jim Thompson.
just,
We call Jim,
We go, hey, we wanna get on the schedule.
yeah.
okay, so, but, I mean, it's an expenditure of funds, so that would have to.
$2,500 probably next year. We'll be looking at doing that.
But can you authorize,
Fiscal year,
You
but yeah.
can.
yeah, you can authorize what, up to 10?
10 grand.
Up to
10.
10. But, I mean, I'd want everybody to be in on it, if
No, I mean, I
If
think it's-
anybody
I
has
think it's
any
fine. I
reservations.
haven't,
Me doing that?
yeah, I haven't heard anybody say pump the brakes. so,
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, but before we close, we still have a resolution that needs to be voted on, and that is to amend,
Yeah, but maybe have Aaron talk
give it
about
back to him.
Yes.
Yep,
I was gonna skip that, didn't you?
I forgot about it.
Okay.
Never let you.
I know you would. Basically, what we're saying is we kind of reworded some of the program because it specifically says only single-family residents and duplexes. We're not really incentivizing an actual single-family home or a duplex. What we're incentivizing is somebody to build on a lot for a residential house or a single, or an owner-occupied structure is basically how I've changed the wording. Because if somebody wants to put a condo on it, put townhomes on it, if they want to put duplexes on it, if they want to put a house on it, I don't think we really care what they put on it, as long as they're putting something on that lot, and we'll give them $20,000 for that. So that's kind of what we've changed the wording there for. We also are recommending that we change the final deadline. The final deadline right now is September 1 of 2024. It'd be kind of, some houses right now can't get a builder until probably September of 2024. So we're recommending changing the final deadline. These dollars have to be spent by the end of September of 2026. So if we set the final deadline at September 1 of 2026, we're okay. It would still say in the program, though, that you have 18 months to finish the project after you get your building permit. So we're not gonna say get your building permit and then you have until 26 to do it. You have 18 months to do it after you get your building permit. Those are the two recommendations or changes that we're looking at.
My only thought was, should there be a little bit of a buffer zone in there so that those two dates don't coincide exactly? Wouldn't you want to make sure,
What 2 dates you talking about?
well, the 2026? Because if funds have to be expended by then, as for our perspective, wouldn't we want to have somebody completed before then? What if they're not done?
18 months or earlier, whatever, or 2026,
Mark,
whatever.
I see what you're saying.
Whatever comes first.
You don't want them to wait till September 1 and be coming in saying, my building's complete,
And
I need the inspection to get my 20,000.
and it's not ready. I mean, it doesn't, Dan's gone, but if you can't issue a certificate of occupancy,
Well,
There's actually a little bit more buffer.
is there,
you got a
is there
2-year
buffer?
The funds have to be expended by December of
Okay,
2026.
that's all I'm
Yeah.
good then.
but you also have to sign up by September 1st of 24.
To do it,
So that gives you 2 years instead of 18 months.
right. I know, but you're gonna have look at the street maintenance building. I mean, you run into
So you'd
crap.
have 2 years and
I just want to make
4
sure there's a
months.
buffer in there, and you say that's already built in.
For
So
the
3
expenditure of the
months.
funds, yeah, so they would still need to be completed with the way this is drafted, to be completed
I'm
with the
good.
house by September 1.
Yeah, I'm
And then
good.
there's time then to make the payment.
Okay,
Well, actually, the program is written that we have to make the payment within 30 days of them receiving their certificate of occupancy.
that's fine. That satisfies my concern.
Can I come back and ask, when we originally came up with this, I'm trying to remember, why did we talk about just single-family homes? And, because there is a reason that
Yeah,
we talked about this.
yeah.
So I am gonna question being able to put anything on a lot. I can't remember. I'd have to dig back. Did anybody dig it up?
Yeah,
I think originally it was confusion of, if I put a duplex there, am I getting 40,000
Right.
instead of 20,000?
yeah.
Okay.
What Mike's concern is that someone would ask for 2 incentives on 1 lot. Just squeeze in, 4 really skinny shotgun-style units or something like that, and not complete the mission of what we were trying to do at getting housing and having taxable valuation. And I think that was, but I said day one,
feel like
I
that
said,
would've been
we should have
easily
included
explainable.
condos.
But-
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. But
I
this
think-
way, what I was telling these guys is, if you look at all of the condos that have been put up lately, they're all duplexes. It's just that because they're grouped together and they're under one association, then they're considered condos. Whereas a duplex would pretty much just be owner occupied with no association. And so I think we're hung up on nomenclature more so than anything else. But that's the best way I
But
can
would that-
explain
would
it,
be,
Misty.
what if it was a duplex not owner occupied?
They would not be eligible.
Then it wouldn't be.
Yeah, what
So
you're saying,
a
if it's
rental
rental,
wouldn't-
we're not.
A rental
No.
wouldn't be.
Well, it wouldn't be a rental. I mean, if I built a duplex and I didn't live in it and I sold both sides,
It's still owner occupied then.
Yeah.
But if your intent is to make it owner occupied, whereas I'm gonna build a duplex and
oh,
sell
never
each side.
mind. I was
Then they're
thinking-
you're all right.
I was thinking builder occupied, not owner occupied.
Yeah,
Never mind.
yeah,
It's okay.
that's all right.
Yeah, duh.
The overall intent was to kind of simplify it a little bit, just to say, okay, one lot, $20,000.
Okay.
And out of those 20 that we're doing of the $20,000 incentive, there's 5 left, is that correct?
There's 6.
6?
Oh, there's
Yeah,
six.
you have, did Perry count wrong? Because I asked him.
Yeah, but him and I conferred this afternoon.
Okay.
Council has approved 12 already.
That's,
And
okay,
there's 2 more that are in the pipe that'll be coming next council meeting.
okay.
So then that will give us 14, so there would be 6
Okay.
remaining
So I
of the
knew there
initial.
was, we'd
For
only approved
this,
12.
okay.
Well, I knew we didn't approve them, but
Okay.
I went and asked Perry, and he said,
Well,
he gave me
he
two
was
and a half.
counting one that was not eligible.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
So
And then
if
we'll have a
if those
side
are done,
conversation
then
about
all of
when that
this
starts
is,
getting
we don't have to worry
down.
about it.
we have,
Correct.
I'll talk to you, but we
Unless
have to
council,
have
it depends on how
a
quickly those
plan
go.
on
Yeah,
it.
And
that's
then
what I
if
meant. If
council
they go
wants to
quickly.
We got
add
there
more or
first
not.
and we
Yeah.
didn't,
Oh,
and now
yeah.
we're done. Because there's,
It's whoever we got it in hand.
right, well, but it still has to be completed.
So you're looking for a motion.
That's, I want to talk to you about that. Okay, so we still have a resolution on the floor here. Is there anybody that wants to make a motion to that? So we're just going to change the language.
So moved.
Second.
That was Laverne, seconded by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Fornero,
Yes.
Dirk,
Yes.
Bates, Bauer.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. Okay, so we are moving in that direction, but we are going to move to Chad, a pocket park ground lease, and this is a quickie.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
I just set you up, didn't I?
I'm close to bedtime, so.
Thanks, Tom.
Basically, all this is we had a group of citizens and a business owner, actually the business owner of Fridley Theaters, approach us about some vacant space behind and just west of their theater. Just creating an inviting space that can be, have some short-term landscaping, just a nice place downtown where people can stop and visit. I've talked to the business owner to the west, and she is actually wanting to do quite a bit of landscaping on the west side of the sidewalk there. So we're very open to that, especially having a public-private partnership on that. This is basically just a short-term lease. Fridley Theater still plans on doing some sort of renovation and expansion in the next 3 to 5 years. So that is why it's a year-to-year lease, just $1 a year. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. So just seeking recommendation, or our recommendation is just an approval of the lease to become a pocket park.
My only question is who's gonna keep it up?
We will do the maintenance, such as the mowing, the spraying, weed eating, things like that. Volunteers will likely be doing all the landscaping and planting. And with this being a short-term lease, we've already had the discussion, nothing that can be permanent in there, no trees. It basically sounds like it'd just be annuals, native grasses, different things of that nature. And we do already mow all along the railroad, right behind it, so it wouldn't take our guys anything to come in and get that done too.
So you're seeking council to approve the one-year lease, essentially what you're doing. Any other questions? I would seek a motion to approve the resolution and the approval of the
moved.
one-year lease. Tom,
Second?
seconded by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirk,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Fornero,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Perfect, thanks.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. Okay, we are to item number 8 under reports. We have a 1-ton pickup truck for the golf course, Chad.
Correct. So at the August 8th meeting, the city council approved a bid from Motor Inn for a ton truck for the golf course. Later that winter or early winter of this year, we found out that our truck could no longer be built on fleet. We had discussion on which way to proceed, and we decided, if we go forward, can get the truck in production or in line to be produced, then we can have a discussion at the council level to either approve or disapprove of that truck pending price. Tony here is from Motor Inn, so he can help answer any questions. We received note that the truck did come in and has been delivered to Motor Inn. It does have an increased price for going to a 2024, ending with a sticker of $55,235 with a trade-in value of the current vehicle that the Muni is using at $4,000. Through some discussion, we have decided that if this would to be approved, that we would likely put the truck on Gov Deals or a government website, just to help increase the overall trade value or setback of that. Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to add on the
No,
topic?
the only thing I was gonna add is, kind of had a front row seat for this thing since we discovered, that there was a significant price increase, and I've had multiple conversations with Tony, thank you, and some of his staff, and then also with Chevrolet Motor Division, and their customer service and their fleet department up there, and they cannot offer us any assistance or concessions on the price increase. And so with that, I think Chad and I had a little bit of a visit, and Aaron as well too, as to how to avoid this again in the future. And probably should just put it out for bid, but we learned this, we call it a learning moment.
I do have one question for Tony. So the MSRP on this is 55,235.
Yes.
On the original bid, we had a government discount, which I understand that's gone as the fleet, but there was a customer discount of 3510. Is there no discount on this now?
Well, if you look at the 45,595, then it says fleet with the fan code. The discount for having the fan code is $1,100. The rest of it is coming off the truck. So basically, when you break down the, I'm sorry, did you say 55,000 for MSRP?
Yeah.
No,
That's total
the
due.
down bed.
Yep.
Okay.
So the actual MSRP is 45,595.
Gotcha.
The fleet price, including the fan, the fan code, is 42,135, which I could substantiate that, meaning that is a net number off of the invoice.
Yep. Okay. I was looking at an old sheet. I
I've not marked
apologize.
the truck up because of what took place. Some of it was way beyond our control. And so I'm putting the truck, offering the truck at a net number, which I have invoiced to substantiate that,
No, I understand totally. So
to do our part.
Any other questions for Chad?
And I did check, if I may.
You're fine.
I did check with Tim with Hawkeye, and they do have the bed in stock, so the delay would be minimal at this point moving forward to get the truck ready for use.
Sure.
So we kind of have two matters at hand. A is to approve the purchase of the vehicle from Motor Inn at that stated amount, and then whether or not you want to agree with their trade-in offer, or if you want to put it up for bid at govs.deals or
Gov
govs.
Deals.
Dot,
Yep.
yeah. Something new.
And
Your
upon
thoughts?
accepting the bid, we would have to waive the purchase policy as well.
Due to,
Since we originally accepted a 23, therefore there is a change, so we would have to waive the purchase policy for a 24. Because of the increase in
resolution to
price.
make the purchase.
okay,
Because we didn't go out for a bid like our policy would have required.
which takes me back to that point. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize we had to do that either. I don't know if that changes anything, but what are your thoughts?
I personally think, yeah, purchase it and move on. Because how long before Chevy shuts down or even opens up a fleet order? Dodge is gonna be at a different time. I know on the Ford side, we can't price them out till September, so we're all not even gonna be able to price at the same time. And we'll be in the same situation, I truly feel like, you know, if they're all open, you know, September 1, and you have a 2-month window to order these things, it's a different story, but we're not in that situation right now.
Right, and then we were delayed on, getting pricing on this truck up until 30-some days ago. We didn't have, I checked weekly, amongst some other retail pieces we had, and it just wasn't available.
So motion to approve.
The purchase is kind of, and then move on, but before we do that, should we waive the purchase policy first?
You could probably do that all in the same motion.
All in the same
of
motion?
Purchasing, if you want to purchase the.
Where are you getting the money out of this one? What fund?
Is this local options?
General, no, the
General fund.
General fund, all right.
Yeah.
How about the third part about the trade-in?
That would be a separate.
That'd be
A separate motion?
Yeah, so
Okay,
two
so
motions.
go ahead and make the motion then that we waive the purchase policy and accept the quote from Motor Inn in the amount of 55,
35.
235.
yeah, 235.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to purchase the truck at 55,235 with waiving the purchase policy.
A second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Renier?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Okay. How about for the trade-in now? You want to do that too, Kyle?
Yeah. I'll make the motion to sell the 1999 F-350 on govdeals.com. And we are able to put a minimum bid on that or reserve, and it's no cost to the city.
Correct.
I truly believe the truck will net us more than the $4,000. So, with having a dump box and
There's your motion. Is there a
35,000
second?
miles.
Second by Tom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Renier?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Motion
Thank you. Chad, you're still up. Golf carts.
Lucky me. So,
GPS.
last piece for tonight, when we purchased the 35 new golf cars from Miller and Sons, we weren't sure where the market was gonna be, so we did not include the GPS units. Basically, we wanted to make sure we had enough to purchase the carts. That was our first priority. Second priority was to obtain, or wait until next fiscal year to get GPS units. I've worked with a couple of different outlets, and the best ones we've come across was Jets Outdoor Power. They will be getting a very similar style as what we currently have. It's actually the same make, same brand. After Eric went through all of the current GPS units we have, he is notified that we have 12 that are currently in good working condition. So he will be transferring those onto the new carts, as well as ordering 23 brand new GPS units. This wasn't a part of the original cart lease, or excuse me, the local option sales tax funds for the overall purchase of the carts. So what we are requesting is the one-time purchase of 23 GPS units for the Carroll Municipal Golf Course in the amount of $9,000, or $9,775.
Chad, the only question I have on this, will Jets be charging us to move those other 12?
Just the wiring install.
Okay. So that's not on this bid?
Oh.
Isn't that the, no, never mind, I thought that was the clean wiring, so.
So, he either is going to put that as part of, basically all we're dealing with right now is the purchase of new. Otherwise, that can go straight to, cart repair,
Okay.
and it would be a minimal amount. He says he's gonna do the installs for, basically it's $35, the clean wiring install. So I would just take that times the 12, and our budget, I mean, that's a low enough number that would just be regular maintenance.
Yep.
You recoup the cost of all this by rental?
Correct.
Is there a motion to make this purchase?
Second?
Tom, and was that Laverne or Kyle? Sorry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Cordero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Perfect. Okay, committee reports, I guess we've already had one. Comments from the mayor, not a chance. Comments from the city council. Comments from the city manager, a brief one.
It will be short. I did have a Zoom meeting with the retail coach folks. They have reached out to a retailer, possibly having a discussion with our downtown vacant building. Us and CCGP will have a meeting. We're supposed to be getting a meeting later this summer to have more conversations, I think they said even with that specific retailer. So we're gonna try and get something going there. But other than that, that was the only discussion we had, along with updated numbers and stuff like that, which haven't changed a lot for our community at this point.
Okay, very good. We're ready. Motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Cordero?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.